It is one of the most eaten foods on Earth, and two proud nations have spent over a century claiming they invented it. Belgium insists the French fry was born along a frozen river in the Meuse Valley. France points to the name the whole world repeats and considers the matter settled. Neither will back down. And neither, it turns out, can actually prove it. Because behind this golden symbol of Brussels fry shops and fast food counters everywhere lies a mystery far older than the feud itself. To find where the fry truly comes from, you have to leave Europe entirely and climb a mountainside in the Andes that had never seen hot oil at all. Because to understand the fry, you first have to understand the potato, and the potato is far older and far stranger than the argument over it. For thousands of years, long before anyone in Europe had ever tasted one, farmers in what is now Peru and Bolivia had been growing it high in the mountains. Up there, in the thin Andean air, terraced fields climbed the slopes full of potatoes in colors you rarely see today. Deep purples, reds, and golds. Hundreds of varieties shaped by altitude and time. When Spanish ships returned from the Americas in the 1500s, they carried this strange tuber back across the ocean. But Europe did not welcome it. The potato grew underground in the dark, and to many people that felt suspicious, even unnatural. Some believed it caused disease. For decades, it was grown mostly as animal feed or ignored entirely. The food that would one day feed billions sat at the edge of the table, distrusted and overlooked. It would take hunger, war, and more than 100 years before Europe finally changed its mind. And this is where Belgium stakes its claim, in a river valley in what is now the country's south. The story goes something like this. Along the river Meuse, near the town of Namur, villagers survived in part by frying small fish they pulled from the water. It was cheap, it was hot, and it was theirs. But in the harsh winters, the river would freeze solid, and the fish would vanish beneath the ice. So, the legend says, the villagers reached for the next best thing. They cut potatoes into thin strips, roughly the shape of the little fish they could no longer catch, and they dropped them into the oil instead. Belgians will tell you this happened as far back as the 1600s, and that the fry was born right there, on the banks of a frozen river. It is a beautiful story. There is just one problem. Historians point out that potatoes were expensive and uncommon in that poor region back then, possibly far too rare for hungry villagers to be tossing into the fryer by the handful. The legend might even be older than the potatoes' arrival in the valley. So the truth flickers just out of reach, which is exactly what makes it so hard to let go of. Which brings us to the question hiding in plain sight. If the fry may well be Belgian, why does half the world call it French? There are a few answers, and historians still argue about which one is right. The simplest has nothing to do with geography. In Old English kitchens, to French something meant to cut it into long, thin strips. French fried potatoes, then, might simply mean potatoes sliced the French way, with no connection to the country of France at all. But there is a second story, and it is the one people love to tell. During the First World War, American soldiers arrived in southern Belgium in the French-speaking region of Wallonia. There, they tasted these hot fried potatoes for the first time. Hearing the locals speak French, the soldiers assumed they were in France and called the dish French to match the language around them. When they sailed home, the name went with them. And then there is Thomas Jefferson. Years earlier, while serving as a diplomat in Paris, he had developed a taste for potatoes fried in the French manner. Back in America, a recipe written in his own papers described potatoes deep fried while raw in small slices, and the dish was reportedly served at the president's house. A future president may have helped put the fry on the American table long before fast food ever existed. Whoever truly invented it, one country turned the fry into an art form. In Belgium, the fry is not a side dish, it is the main event. Walk through almost any Belgian town and you will find a fritkot, a small fry shop where the potatoes are cooked the proper way, which means twice. The first fry happens at a lower temperature, cooking the potato through until it is soft inside. Then it rests. And then it goes back into hotter oil for a second fry, which gives that deep golden shell its crackle. Traditionally, all of this happened in beef fat, which gave Belgian fries a richness that vegetable oil never quite matches. They are served in a paper cone, piled high, topped not with ketchup, but with a thick swirl of mayonnaise. By many counts, Belgium has more fry shops per person than anywhere on earth. For a food whose origins are in doubt, the devotion is not in doubt at all. But the fry was about to leave that river valley far behind and become something the villagers of Namur could never have imagined. In the middle of the 20th century, an Idaho potato farmer named J.R. Simplot figured out how to freeze fries and ship them anywhere, ready to drop straight into oil. It sounds like a small thing, but it changed everything. Frozen fries meant a restaurant in one country could taste almost exactly like a restaurant 10,000 miles away. When Simplot struck a deal with a fast-growing burger chain called McDonald's, the fry went truly global. The Golden Arches turned a peasant food into a worldwide symbol, selling fries by the billions every single year. If you are enjoying the story so far, take a second to subscribe because the most surprising chapter is still ahead. And the next twist was stranger still. For years, McDonald's cooked its fries in beef fat, much like the old Belgian frikots, and that fat was the quiet secret behind the flavor people loved. Then, under growing pressure over health concerns, the company switched to vegetable oil around 1990. The taste changed and customers noticed, so the company began adding a natural beef flavoring back into the oil to bring the old taste home. The trouble was, many vegetarians had no idea. When the truth came out in 2001, it sparked outrage and lawsuits, and eventually a settlement of around $10 million paid to vegetarian and religious groups. A simple fried potato had become surprisingly complicated. By now, the fry was no longer just food. It had become an identity, even a flag to wave. In 2003, when France refused to support the American-led invasion of Iraq, anger boiled over in Washington. In a move that sounds almost too strange to be real, the cafeterias of the United States House of Representatives stripped the word French from their menus. From that day, they served freedom fries. It was a protest aimed at a country that, as we have seen, may not have even invented the fry in the first place. A few quiet years later, in 2006, the menus changed back, and the freedom fry slipped away as suddenly as it had arrived. So, where did the French fry really come from? The honest answer is that we may never know for certain. It was born somewhere between an Andean mountainside and a frozen Belgian river, shaped along the way by Spanish ships, hungry villagers, confused soldiers, a curious American president, and a frozen food salesman from Idaho. No single person invented it. The whole world did. Slowly, by accident, over hundreds of years. And maybe that is the most fitting thing about it. The fry belongs to everyone now, and to no one in particular. The next time one lands in front of you, golden and steaming in its paper sleeve, remember that you are holding the end of a story thousands of years long. If you love this kind of hidden history, subscribe and stay with us. There are even wilder ones still to come. In the meantime, watch the next one here.